Hi, welcome. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Oh, it's so good to see all of you. I see some new friends and some old friends. Great to be here with all of you. Welcome, welcome. So this is our Books That Save Lives Heart Wisdom panel, and I'm super excited to be here with all of you again. I'm Jerry Reichert-Ballou, author of Say It Now, and our special author guest today, we have Sue Thoele. Hi, Sue. And
Hi.
hi, and then we have JJ Hubal. Hi, JJ. And we are going to be talking about aging and saging, or as our behind the scenes joke goes, it could be a little bit of sagging, a little bit of soggy, a little bit of sobbing as well, if that's where we go with it. But yeah, so we've got two wonderful authors here today to talk about aging with joy, with compassion, with love. And personally, I'm so excited to be having a conversation about this because I hate the expression anti-aging. And it's always bugged me because I feel lucky. I feel so lucky to be still here. And in order to be still here, we do need to be aging. So I'm excited to hear where we go with this topic. And before we have the authors introduce themselves, Sue has generously offered to do a little quiet 1 or 2 minute. I don't know if it's going to be a meditation, a visualization, but Sue, you want to lead us?
Sure. Oh, so just if you feel comfortable doing so, close your eyes. And let's just take a couple of deep breaths. Imagine that there's a breeze, and on that breeze is this beautiful, sweet, gentle smell. Breathe that in. When I was thinking about aging, trees popped into my mind, and the circles that we can see when they're cut down that shows us how old they are and how much space they have grown and expanded into in each year. So just think of yourself, if you feel like it, as a tree, and allow that breeze to blow through your leaves, and imagine the rings that your personal tree is creating, gently, with absolutely no judgment, with delight, actually, just for a minute. And if you have some rebel rings that want to be red or polka dot, that's cool. Now, this very, very gently allow yourself to sort of move in your mind's eye, if not your body, with with the breeze. And this breeze is calming, soothing, centering. And when you feel ready, open your eyes.
Oh, Sue, I love that. I love that you brought in those rings. That was beautiful. Thank you. Ah, so nice. Let's just bask in just for one extra moment that the lovely feeling of landing here. And when I had my eyes closed, I could still see all of your faces, that are so beautiful and just feeling so grateful to be here with all of you. So why don't we start? JJ, this is your first time as a
Thank you.
special guest author.
Exciting.
And yeah, welcome. So I'd love
Thank
for
you.
you to introduce yourself. And
Alrighty.
as part of your introduction, will you tell us your favorite part of aging?
Oh dear. Gives me time to think about it. I'm JJ Hubal, and Goodbye Old, Hello Bold is the book that is with Books That Save Lives. And my most recent book. I've written all my life. I always said my motto was I write what I live, and I'm realizing I write and draw what I live, and always have from a very early age. I recognize the power of drawing probably first is that you could draw for the kid in the desk next to you and make them laugh and get in trouble or something. I mean, you could communicate a message through a drawing that summed up a situation. And so over the years, I've had a couple of books, one about changing a life at the beach. Another one was a recovery series for 12-step programs. And I've written essays for magazines and newspapers. I've had a podcast, and then I've cartooned for the last 13 years for Cartoon Stock in England. And so I've done a lot of things. Some of them are on the wall behind me, but none of them have brought together everything at once like this book did. So I love that opportunity to, for once, feel kind of whole in what I'm doing, not just in part. It's not just words and it's not just drawings. I'm able to do them together. So that's sort of the brief history of me. What do I like about aging? Was that your question?
What do you love about aging, Jay?
Love about aging. As well, there's a quote, Catherine Norrie Hughes, who wrote a novel and was written up in ARP. And she said, the wonderful thing, I'm slightly misquoting it, about being young is you think you have all the time in the world. And the wonderful thing about being older is knowing you don't. And I think that sense of urgency makes me use my time more wisely, quit wasting it, and shoulda, coulda, woulda, and whining and whatever else, and get focused. And I know when I went to do this project, I thought, look at the array of things you could do and pick one that you can live with the rest of your life that has really no limits. And that really kicked in for the first time. It was one of the first positive thoughts I had about getting older. Even though that's what I cartooned about and wrote about, that one came from inside me. So I would say that's it. It
Yeah,
helps
I like that.
me focus.
And I had copied that exact quote from your book
Oh
because I
dear.
wanted to bring it in today, but now you've already done it. I love that quote. Beautiful. And
Thank you.
thank you. We're so glad to have you. And I know I'm going to have Brenda introduce herself after Sue, and she might have a word or two also about your amazing book. So,
Oh, thank you.
yeah. Oh, and also everyone, Tatiana has been so kindly posting all of the links to the books. So thank you, Tatiana, for that. Sue, it's always great to have you back here at the Heart Wisdom
Thank you.
panel. Welcome. Same question to
Um,
you as you introduce yourself.
Okay, what do I love most about aging? It's a couple of things. Freedom. I really love the freedom I feel. Freedom with time and freedom with fewer responsibilities and freedom just to be whoever the hell I want to be. And part of that freedom is I love to flirt. I never flirted when I was younger, which means, until I was like 70 or 75. And because I was born and raised in Missouri, and you don't flirt unless you're kind of fast. So so I love to flirt now. It's just a lot of fun. I like to flirt with women and men and just be more open. So I just feel a freedom of both situation and internal.
I love that. I love that. And I think we've gotten to see a lot of that in you when we've had you here as our guest, which I appreciate. I know that one of your books is this one, How to Stay Upbeat in a Beat Down World. I know you have many others. Did you want to share anything more about your work in general?
Well, unlike JJ, I writing as a second, third career really was an absolute surprise to me. So the muse kind of grabbed me and wouldn't let me go with the first book, and we self-published that, and then it was picked up by Canary Press, of which Brenda was a part then. So that was a long time ago, and I was very surprised. The title of that was "The Courage to Be Yourself," and it was pretty good seller. And then I just got bitten. I just love writing. I just do it. Mostly now, I probably won't write any more books, but I just love to do haiku and little glips and glops. And so I have a little monthly thing that I need to write for my church, and that's fun. So it's part of, well, like JJ, it's been part of my life a long time, but not the book aspect. So
Mm.
yeah. And I've been with Brenda for a long time through a lot of those books. So that's been fun.
I love it. Thank you, Sue. And speaking of Ms. Brenda, hi, Brenda. So
Hi.
Brenda and Duncan are both here as the co-founders of Books That Save Lives. And Brenda, I'm excited to hear. I always love when you tell your stories about how these authors got to be here.
Oh, yes. Well, I've been smiling ever since Sue talked about allowing her, giving herself permission to flirt. And so I'm looking forward to one of the meditations that we do at some point in a Heart Wisdom one day to be a very flirtatious meditation. We'll have to figure that out because now, like, she just got my mind whirling on that. And I have had the honor to work with Sue Patton Thoele for like decades, and I've learned so much from her. And last week and the week before, we were in pivotal pre-sales and then sales conference meetings with our sales reps. It was our debut, um, our coming out party, if you will. And I was telling people that I read something from Sue Patton Thoele every day, and that her writing is just next level. It's brilliant, it's soothing, it's soulful. Like, so I'm gonna say, like, if you guys need a little pick me up on a beat down day, a beat down moment, just grab you some Sue Patton Thoele, and like she's gonna uplift you immediately, and you will also learn something and have something to ponder. And then in terms of JJ and I mean, I think I might have acquired her book for me because like I will admit that I'm getting older too, and you know, and so, but like I don't feel old inside. I just don't. The tone and the humor and the heart of Goodbye Old, Hello Bold, like just is exactly how I feel, and I'm sure there are millions of other people that like we want the rest of our lives to be the best of our lives, and why not? I think it absolutely can be. And the last thing about me aging is that thanks to the work I do, like I realize that as I'm aging and saging, I'm gathering wisdom. And like when people like, tell me about a problem or they're upset about something, I immediately have like a great quote from one of the authors I've worked with and that are genuinely helpful. And I'll say, "Oh, there's a book for you." Like, this is going to help you. It helps me. Like this book will help you. And so I sort of feel like I'm like a wisdom gatherer as I'm saging.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Both a wisdom gatherer and a wisdom giver, right? You gather and then you give, and then you gather
Yes.
and you give. And that's so, well, look at all the hearts. This is why I love the Heart Wisdom panel. Like, look at, I just love this community. Oh, that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. Duncan, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just, if you wanted to say a word or two, I know it's always nice to have you here too.
Oh, well, I'm in the process of getting old, so, um, but yeah, like Brenda, I still feel very young inside. And I've grown more and more confident in my flirting as I've aged. So it's been a joy. And
Good skill.
I can attest to Brenda's wisdom because that actually came up when I was talking to somebody who asked how Brenda and I work through new processes and, hurdles that we have to overcome at the company. And I say, well, Brenda has just so much wisdom from working with all these self-help books over the years, and she has all these tools at her disposal to help us get through a difficult moment in the company. So I'm always really grateful for that.
I love that. I love that. I see an upcoming Heart Wisdom panel just strictly on flirtation, right? Like I think that's where we're headed soon. So I love that. Well, welcome and welcome to everyone who's here as our guests. Those of you who have been with us before, and I see a lot of familiar faces, know that. So typically we'll have a conversation with our featured authors and then open it up if people have comments or questions, so feel free to jump in once we have a little bit of our traction going on our topic. So I also, before we launch into the heart of this, JJ, I would love for you, because your book is so visual, I would love it. I know you've got it right there. Could you just show us a few?
Yes, I surely will. I did want to say something about what both Duncan and Brenda said. It's not in your imagination that you're getting older, but you still feel young. We're the real pioneers. This is the first group to come through. I'm a true boomer, 1946. And we are something the world has never seen. And I've been looking up statistics, and one of the statistics that really shocked, well, 10,000 people a day in the United States turned 65. In 1950, when some of us were alive, 2,300 Americans reached the age of 100. Last year, 101,000 reached the age of 100.
Whoa.
They don't know what to do with us. And we
Whoa.
hardly know what to do with ourselves. So we are true pioneers. This way of thinking, probably the most radical part of this, and Brenda knows that we went long and hard over this title, and this is the perfect title. The most radical word in this title is the word old. This word was banned everywhere. You couldn't turn in anything even to PBS or to anybody. They had right in their guidelines, do not use any of these words, including senior. And I thought, well, by the time I'm done, how do you know how old I am? Who am I writing for? And a woman came along and wrote another book about her sudden fame as a model. And I read it and I thought, I love it, because Brenda pushed for this. And once this other person did it, and I thought, this is the word that needs to be out there. This is not a disease. We're still alive. We're still fun. We can still function. So way off your question, Sherry, I'm sorry, but honestly, I'm so happy to see that being used in a positive way. Embrace it. You mentioned we're lucky, we're old. Lots of people never get to be.
Yeah.
This was the first time I mentioned I cartoon and I write, but this was the first time I got to do two things at the same time. And it just sort of evolved, because I had hit a point where I felt there was nothing really left. I'd lost a lot of people. And then with aging, you also lose your career, you lose everything, your hair. I mean, everything's gone. And suddenly there was this wake up. And I said, I write and draw what I live. Well, as many of the authors who are here do, probably I wrote myself out of many a situation. I think it's not unusual that books are born out of confusion or pain or a down moment. They just are. And that's just part of life. But look what comes out of them. And so this original drawing was the original drawing, but it had a different title. And so the title had to go with this drawing, which is mine, and these people leaping off the earth and whatever. And Brenda put together a whole bunch of bigger brains than mine. And we came up with what I consider the perfect title, and the joyful leap into a world of new possibilities as we age. You cannot mistake what this book is about. But for me, I got to do what I love, but all at once. And so I'll just show you the first 2 pages.
Okay.
It shows you how that works. That's what a page looks like. And this one says, it's the beginning. I truly don't understand how this happened. One day I went to bed. One day I was young, and this is goo goo gaga. And went to bed, and there's a guy a little older, and when I woke up, I was old. That's how it happens. Suddenly you're there. And because of technology, I was able to mess around with fonts, which are demonstrated on page 2. Because it says there, anyone who says it happens in a different way or getting older is no big deal is a liar, liar, pants on fire. Getting older is a very big deal. And the fonts tell you I'm not kidding around. And so, and when I wrote it, it was exactly what I was thinking. And then you can see how it's just illustrated all the way through. And it's not just illustrations, like little pictures that go with stuff. They say things like, this is me trying to think of possibilities. And it says, I've got nothing. Okay. But the guy on the page before, he was one of those lucky guys who had a whole bunch of ideas for old age. And so the illustrations don't just draw a picture of what the text says, they take it further. They either make it funny or they make it deeper. It's deceptively funny. Brenda said a nice thing to me she probably doesn't even remember. After she read it, she said there's just so much more to this book than, kind of meets the eye. So yes, even on a page like this, these little guys, this is saying you've got too much stuff. This is what you have to get rid of. And the rocking chair is saying, trust me, the kids don't want you, so, and so toss me and you'll regret it, to this totally out of date thing. So that's what I got to do, plus messing around with fonts, which was easy. You just click a thing and it does it. And so I really enjoyed putting this together just from a personal point of view. So.
JJ, it's so obvious from, I know I'm just getting to know you over these last few months, and it's been such a joy to see that you really embody what you're writing about, right? Like it's I mean, anybody listening to you right now, right? You're so spirited, you're so excited about it. And I'm so grateful, and I'm grateful you took the time to show us some of those pages so we get a sense of it. I'm actually going to pop over to Sue because there was a place that I wanted to start our conversation or go a little deeper. Sue had sent me an email early on when we were talking about this topic. And Sue, you mentioned having seen some friends, I think they were old college friends, right? And that for them, their mindset was really kind of snagged in what's going on in the world, how hard things are. I mean, we all can attest there's a lot of hard stuff going on. And that conversation that you relayed to me that I'm going to invite you to speak a little more about, it made me think of something that often happens as we age, which is that, oh, things were so much better then. Brenda had said, I loved it. I think I put it in the chat. What did she say? We want the rest of our lives to be the best of our lives. But often in aging, what happens is, what was then was better. And so, Sue, I just thought, I know you've written a lot about all of this. Like, what do you want to share around that idea of the mindset of aging?
Well, I think I came away from that, we were together 3 days, and I have seen these people. I'm 85, so we graduated college together. So, and we have seen each other maybe 4 times since then. So, we really don't know each other well. Wonderful, wonderful women, very bright, a journalist and an editor, and but they hadn't had the same upbringing or opportunity to really get in touch with concepts like Books That Save Lives put out there to all of us. The concept of your thoughts do create your reality, and all the rest of the stuff that all the books that you guys have available are talking about. These are incredibly well-read people and very socially conscious and so forth, but not psychologically, metaphysically familiar. And I just was awash with gratitude for having the opportunity to learn that stuff and not get so hooked with all the garbage that's going on and all the stuff that we wish were different. And so that's what I was talking about. Just this incredible freedom to know that if I'm feeling down, I can search back and find out what is causing that inside me. And you know, one of the major things, and of course I'm an old therapist, so it would be my major thing, but we really have to heal our stuff.
Yeah.
And then we get freer and freer. But we have to know that you can. You know, that was my gratitude that I came away with.
Wow. Sue, I really appreciate that. I mean, a couple of the big things, right? Heal our own stuff, because otherwise we're kind of leading with that, I think, a lot of times. And also, I don't think you said this, but you demonstrate this all the time in who you are, which is that compassion for yourself and that compassion for other people, that compassion for the world. And so I'm going to project that that's also a piece of it.
Oh,
that
it's, well, you know me, so you know that that's my soapbox. Self-compassion has been my soapbox for 40 some years. So, or probably before that, because I was a therapist before that. So yes, yes. And I noticed that a lot of the talking was banter, but it was also self-denigrating banter. And you know, that has an effect.
JJ, you want to jump in? I see you nodding, and yeah.
As Sue is talking, I'm thinking, oh, that's this page, that's this page. And it's so similar. I just such a big ditto. And I think as I approached myself and how long was I going to wallow in self-pity that everything was gone, oh, poor me. And I thought, okay, I need to go first and foremost away from a bunch of stuff. It's kind of the die to self, die to live, lose to gain idea. So it's as old as time itself, but that's where a lot of the drawings came from. And I think maybe some of the stuff that Sue's thinking, and I watched it because I went back, I thought I would recapture the old days. I just simply done it wrong. I'd moved all over the United States. So at gosh, how old was I? 70. We moved back to my hometown in northern Minnesota, which I assumed then I would relive that. I recapture all of it. What a wake up. You cannot do that. Nobody is interested in you. 90%, most of them dead. If they weren't dead, they were stuck. They had never left that place, not emotionally and not literally. And so it was, as I listened to them, I thought, okay, this is how I'm going to end up if I don't get my act together. And we ultimately left there. But first I had to leave that idea that I was going to go back and do it right. And this time everybody would love me, I would be happy, and I would just coast into older age. And instead I came up with drawings like, you need to get away from people who are a bottomless pit of need. And I mean, one of the saddest things is a drawing I did of a conversation, imbalanced conversations. And this came right out of one of those coffees I had in that setting. And the person over here is saying, I'm having brain surgery on Tuesday. The person over here says, oh, want to see some pics of my granddaughter's dance recital? The costumes cost me a fortune, but it's worth it, and blah, 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 blah. And I thought, how long are you going to stay in this? It's so important who you surround yourself with, what people, what books, what I just cleaned out and literally got down to almost nothing, because I realized most of what was happening was very similar to what Sue was describing. And that was going to be my future if I didn't actively push away from that. So I don't mean to paraphrase what you're saying, Sue, but just sort of that idea is just, I think, absolutely fundamental, is you've got to let go of the parts of the past that just don't work. And I mean, I learned the hard way. That was an expensive lesson, moving back. But I think I'm stubborn, and I had to see up close this was not going to work. You walk by your parents' house and guess what? They aren't there anymore. And so
Wow.
I think I needed it. I'm a visual person. I needed it in kind of in my face in a way just to stop and move on. So other
Yeah.
people maybe learn easier, but
Well, and what I love so much about what you're both saying, and it fits right into so much of what Books That Save Lives is always advocating, which is this like staying and creating more new things. Like it's about that sort of generative process of our lives and our creativity. And I think that in a way, that's what you're both saying too. It's like we're here, we're still here, and in fact, every one of us who's growing older, which is all of us, I think we all say like, wow, I still feel like I still have all these ideas. I still have this energy. So moving that way, moving forward into that. Yeah. I just want to make Brenda, I was just going to say, if anybody wants to jump in, please do. And here you are.
Yes, well, what Sue touched on about getting together with her former college mates, and that there was self-denigration and they were putting themselves down. And I go way back to my early Canary days where we were first publishing. I was first getting to know and read the brilliance of Donna Markova, and she talked about that in The Open Mind. And this is one of her go-to pieces of wisdom, that like if you put yourself down, it literally imprints on your soul. Your soul remembers it, to quote her directly. And then also your brain will take it as like a directive. Like for example, and she gives this example, like if you say, well, I'm bad with money, like so it's imprinted on your soul. So you feel bad about yourself around money. And then your brain is like, oh, I'm bad with money. I'm going to make some money mistakes. So it's not just like putting yourself down, it's like sort of negative programming. And actually, this is something that just sort of naturally evolved at Books That Save Lives, is that if that accidentally happens, like in a meeting, like I'll like stop it and say, okay, take it back, take it back, unsay it, because like whatever it is, like I will sort of say, no, you're actually really good at X, Y, or Z. So I guess we're not phoning it in over here at Books That Save Lives. We're taking it seriously. We are walking our talk all the time, all day long.
Brenda, I love that. And I have kind of this may seem shallow, but maybe not. I don't know. But another example of that, like in the physical realm, right? So it's not easy for our physical changes all the time, right? And I noticed
oops.
number of noticing the this and that, the wrinkles, the sags. And I, just like you, like I started a practice of like, I would be like, oh, I love you, skin. You're so nice and soft. And, and I could just talking to my, talking to myself in the mirror with that kind of kindness because, first of all, it just feels awful, right? Like, it's like looking for what's wrong, looking for what's wrong, looking for what's wrong versus just like, wow, I can't believe the skin has been around for 6 decades. Like, good for you. So I love that you brought that up. And another thing to love about Books That Save Lives, right? These kinds of values. So anybody want to jump in who is, oh, Tatiana, yeah.
I just quickly wanted to say, in terms of the skin, I always think like the wrinkles here and the wrinkles here are from smiling, from years of smiling. So the more you have there, it means the happier life you lived.
Thank you for that. I love that. It's so true, right? Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things I've noticed in aging for me is that each decade seemed to make me a safer haven for myself, but also a safer haven for other people. Somehow the years, the studying, the writing, whatever, the intention has just created more of a safe harbor, both inner and around. And I think that's one of the huge things that we need to do for ourselves when we're older. Well, when we're younger too, but especially when we're older, because we really are more vulnerable. I mean, there are things I'm not comfortable doing, like driving to the airport and being at the airport without somebody. And I've been a pretty fiercely independent person. So to try to accept that and make myself a safe haven for me, then it also overflows and allows me to be much safer. I just find that I'm just not as judgmental as I used to be.
Mhm.
And I think it starts because I'm not always beating this poor person up.
Mhm.
So I don't feel there's another thing that I've discovered, and that is I don't have very many requirements of myself now.
Mm.
I want to be kind and I want to be nice, but those things come from a different source than they used to.
Mhm.
They come from not because I want people to like me, but because I just like me myself and like you myself. You know, it's there's been a tremendous softening for me in the aging process, which I really love. And I loved your little cartoon with the conversation, and I wanted to sort of bring it to I have discovered silence and not the need to talk in in when I'm with somebody else. And I have discovered this wonderful thing. If I'm not requiring of myself, oh my God, I've got to say something really smart, or I've got to fix this person, or whatever. Wisdom whispers when I'm quiet.
Mhm.
Thank you, Sue. Krishna, did you want to jump in?
I did, yes. I just wanted one thing with aging that I've noticed is I live in a small building with 3 other apartments, and everybody else in the building is like in their 20s and 30s, and all very lovely and friends with them all, but they ask more and more like advice and questions, and I guess they know that I'm older and I can't always answer, but the fact that they feel that I'm somebody that might be able to help them out with like their issues. So, that's one thing about getting older. So just that people think that you are wiser and can give good advice, which I don't know if I do or not, but I feel like I do on the most part. But yes, like the house therapist here in this building. So
And I've heard some pretty wise things come out of you, Krishna. So I do think that they're right in coming to you for some wisdom. So I love that.
thank you.
That's such a beautiful thing, that people coming to us. Linda, it's so good to see you. Just to say, Linda has been one of our you've been around since I think the first Heart Wisdom panels, and it's so nice to see you. You should be able to unmute. Will it let you? There you are.
Yeah, I can. Yes, I'm so excited to get to be here. I'm usually working Wednesday afternoons and I can't make it now, so I'm really happy to be here today. One short thing and then a question. The negative self-talk. Not until we were having this conversation did I realize, I mean, I've been doing it for a really long time, that it doesn't even feel bad anymore. So that's a revelation that I'm gonna be sitting with. So thank you for that revelation. And it may be related to my question in the broader picture. My mom is from a generation where she doesn't do a lot of self-talk or a lot of self-reflection, and she was not exposed to different perspectives on owning your choices in your life and things like that. And so her default is usually a negative perspective. And she's now 88, and she had a fall in March, and she is choosing not to do her PT and just be sad.
Oh,
Which is just heartbreaking for all of us. I have 5 brothers and sisters, and so to watch her just make that choice And part of it is because she just says, I hate exercise, and she considers PT exercise, and she just refused to do it. And so she's been in rehab since March. So I'm just wondering if you have any tips. And she doesn't even like to read anymore. So giving her one of your books probably won't help. So, and I've tried everything I can, and we've even convinced her to try therapy, which she did 1.5 times. So do you have tips for helping shift that perspective for somebody of her age? Because it's really challenging.
And I'd like to hear Sue respond to this. I have thoughts, but
I would say don't try. Just let it
that
be.
was my
Yeah, one of the things that I've realized in this aging process, both my own and my husband's, is that the grief is pretty inherent in the aging process. So the more we can befriend it, and the more we can be friends to us in it, and the more we can accept it and allow it. You know, the Beatles just keep coming back to me, let it be, and
Mhm.
I like that better than let it go. That seems a little abrupt. But the other thing, Linda, for you specifically is I have found that compassionate non-attachment is a really good help for when you want to help and you know you're right. And you are, but she's not having it. So what she really just needs, in my opinion, is for you to just love her.
Mhm. I'm so glad you spoke first, because it was very similar to my thoughts, both from just my own personal perspective. And I had my mother was just everything to me, and just came up from nothing. She's my hero, and developed Alzheimer's. And I wish I had had the presence of mind earlier on. And I know what you're describing is different than that, but it's different, but not really, in a way. And she said to me once, it's going to be better when I'm totally out of it. And I thought, oh, mother, don't. And in reflection, I think, if I'd have just kept my mouth shut, I made it worse for her until I finally, luckily, woke up a little bit and went to the end with her. I accompanied her on the journey. I showed up every day. I made sure she had eyebrows. That's our thing. And made sure her clothes looked like somebody cared.
Oh,
And I thought, she's in one thing you lose as you get older is control. You start not controlling anything. You can't control who you're losing as friends and who's dying, and you're one test away from something. It sounds very dire, but you're losing things all the time and having to change and adjust, and very little of it's in your control. And I can kind of relate to your mom saying, I'm taking control of this. I'm not doing it. When you were 2, that's what you said to her. And so what we all did. And there's some power in that. And I think the old self-help books, way back in the 60s when they first came out, said, take your sail out of their wind. Quit putting up a barrier. Let her say what she says, and she might then have the freedom to really rethink it for herself. You can still express your wishes. Oh, I'd like you in the greatest shape, Mom. I was hoping we could go for a walk, kind of thing. And take all the siblings' egos out of this, because it took me a long time to catch on that that's what I needed to do. This was about my mother, not me, hanging on to the mother I knew. So whether that is helpful or makes any sense, that was kind of just my layperson's
No,
experience.
absolutely. Thank you both so much. And we know we can't make the choice for her. So yeah, that's hard to come to terms with. So yeah, thank you very much.
yeah, that was so beautiful. Thank you, Linda, for bringing that in. And I'm sorry, I know it's so hard. So yeah, Juliana, and then we'll have Tatiana. Ooh, lyrical name.
Yeah, I just wanted to offer something to you, Linda, that helped me a lot when I was going through these processes with my mother before she passed. And I recently read this thing on Substack by Grant Faulkner, and it was talking about how all stories are really about loss. And it really made me think a lot about my mom, and that she chose not to get chemo and not to go through any kind of healing, and just she was ready, and she got a lot of feedback. She got a lot of negative feedback from family who didn't want her to do these certain things and are really pressuring her to do stuff. And um, I realized that, like, this is about my mom's loss. This isn't about this. It's her loss of her youth. It's the loss of her health. It's the loss of her relationships. It's a loss of being here for maybe next year, and her grandbaby's birth, and all these things that were happening during that time. It was like such a great loss, and she was really struggling for the loss. And I didn't really realize that until I started paying attention to it. It was so labor intensive for her to continually advocate for herself with people who weren't really hearing her. And I just changed my whole perspective and the narrative around it. It isn't that, my mom is being stubborn and not doing what everybody wants. And, why doesn't she want to be with us anymore? And are we, does she not love us? And does she, why is she so frustrating? And all these things that kept coming up in the family all the time. And we're constantly dialoguing. We kind of get each other more engaged in it and worked up about it again and again with talking about it, and why isn't she doing what we want? And I just really had to change the narrative, and that she's doing what she wants right now, and she has the agency around her own life to decide what she's going to do, whether I approve or don't approve, or like or don't like. I don't know what it's like to be, in my 80s. I don't know what that's like. And maybe you do feel like, I just want to let go, or I'm over it if something happens that you feel you just don't have the strength for anymore. I don't know. But it really helped me to change. My siblings didn't change their narrative at all, but I changed my narrative about how I approached it. And it was beautiful. I just really, I could see her as a human again. And that was just such a gift. So I just offer that to you as my own experience.
That was beautiful, Juliana. Thank you. Thank you so much. Woo! So much wisdom in everybody who's here. I love this. Tatiana, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, just really quickly, this reminded me, on a weekly basis, I go to like a group therapy, and we also have physical therapy there. So I talk with everyone of all ages. So youngest from 18 to some people are in their late 80s that we chat with and do group with. So I'm friends with all of them. We all know each other well and hear each other's stories every week. And one of the counselors there, he has a great quote that he always shares with us, when one of us is kind of down in the dumps and doesn't really want to put in the effort that week, that we probably should be, which is, he just says, you are worth the effort. And that's what it comes down to, is that it's about realigning your perspective and understanding that sometimes when people are suggesting these things to you, like, hey, mom, I would love if you were doing this, that if we shape it and say, mom, you're worth the effort. Like, you're worth the effort that it takes for you to do these things. I'm not saying it because I want it from you. I'm saying it because I want you to value yourself enough to want this for yourself. So that's just the thing I would do. Is I definitely have heard this exact conversation, and people in groups saying, I really don't want to do PT after this with everyone. Like, I'm not looking forward to it. I'm not, and Gary, our counselor, will be like, no, I don't want to hear it, because I want you guys all to know that you are worth the effort it takes. Even if it's just one little thing today, you don't have to do the whole routine, but just, do one little thing today to prove to yourself that you're worth it.
I love that, Tatiana. And what was coming up for me, and is continuing hearing what you're saying too, we really have to be in the moment, right? Like, I think across the board in our lives, but particularly when it comes to ourselves or to other people. I was just thinking about, I have an 87-year-old mom who really does not travel. She gets really panicky. And we knew, my son and I, we were just there recently, and we wanted to go to the town where she was born. And we knew if she went that she would have an amazing time because she always does. But it was a gentle in the moment kind of when the moment we were talking about her hometown, we were talking about her father's coffee house there, and my son just gently said, "Hey, would you want to go?" And he said, "I'd love it if you did. I'd love to hear your stories." And it was enough to get that little push. Now, other times it might not be the thing, but I think, and it's the same thing with myself, right? Sometimes it's that nudge of like, oh, just get on your workout clothes and do it, I'm here with you. And other times it's like, it's okay. It's okay. Just take a break. So, with everything, I think, right? Just trying to see in the moment what is there. Yeah. We still have about 9 minutes if anybody who hasn't had a chance to talk wants to jump in, or if JJ, Sue, if you've got some other things that you really wanted to make sure we talked about today.
I was just going to say one tiny thing is I love listening to everybody. A theme that comes through is awareness of the other person, respect for the other person, compassion, to use that word, and a gentleness with yourself and with others. And that's just the best way to go into any age, but particularly this segment of life.
Yeah, thank you for underscoring that, JJ. Yeah, Brenda, what were you going to bring in?
Just like a fun aging moment that I observed over the weekend. My husband and I went to Point Reyes Station like over the weekend, just very briefly. And I love that drive up there. And I wanted to go to the ocean there and then also in Bolinas. And so we went to like the little surfing area and watched surfers for a while. It's so beautiful to like see them in motion on the waves. And there was a gentleman there that was surfing who was probably deep into his 80s, and he looked so healthy and so happy. And when he came out of the water and was like carrying his board, and there were a lot of young male surfers sort of like gathered around him, and it was like he was there, I don't know, he was like their Jedi or something, and they were his Padawans. That like I just thought to myself, now that is a beautiful way to age. Like and like, I mean, he looked great. He looked fantastic. I mean, I should probably have gone up and flirted with him
There you
on
go.
Sue Patton Thoele's behalf.
I love that. I have a Pinterest board that's zesty aging, right? So I like to collect images of and stories about, because we've all just sort of talked a little bit about, those people that we know who maybe, didn't have books that save lives and didn't have the kind of like psychology and mindset that we're all fortunate enough to have. But it's like, yeah, I love to look to who can be my role models, right? And how, for me, and I know we just talked about like gently challenging. I want to do that all my life, right? Like hear those stories and think, oh, what would be my sort of surfing, that
I got one.
Sue, bring it in.
My son and I just got back from a motorcycle trip down the Oregon coast.
What?
He drives, and I just enjoy. So, and yesterday we went on a little trip up to about 20 miles away to lunch. So I wouldn't have had the guts to do that at 60 probably, but I do now. Yeah, we've done several, and it's really been fun. Yeah.
Oh, Sue. And I happen to know, didn't you do some swimming with some dolphins not that long ago?
Yeah, the last time I went was 2 years. I'd gone pretty much every year for 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. The person I work for, Brendan Burchard, often will talk about how novelty just feeds our brains and, of course, the chemicals in our whole system, right? So when we're doing new things, it does actually, I think, and I'm not a scientist, I don't know if this is true, but I think it does grow new cells. Is that right? Does anybody know? Tatiana's saying yes, so
It sure sounds right.
it does, doesn't it?
I'm going to say
Yeah.
it does.
And it can be right if we think it hard enough, right?
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I just want people not to be afraid of aging. You know, and so much of it boils down to just really accepting, allowing, letting things be. I was laughing the other day saying, you know, my skin is way too big for my body these days.
Mhm.
It's just, so to put it in a fun way, and it's true. So, and I feel like I've earned this.
Mhm.
Oh,
You know, been there's been great stuff and there's been really challenging stuff, and I don't want to go into it right now, but there's really challenging things in my life now, and lots of little bitty losses piled on top of each other daily. And it's so important. JJ, you picked up on my word that I've been touting forever, and that's gentle. Live gently with yourself and others. And it just makes a huge difference with appreciation. You know, there's so much to appreciate, no matter where we look
Mhm.
or what we're doing. And gratitude, those are huge.
oh, Sue, I love that. I love that. And I know I'm going to ask Alan. Thank you, Brenda. And Ellen, it's good to see you. But before I do that, because I did just want to circle back to that quote that JJ said earlier that I had pulled that I think is so important. You know, when we're young, we have the advantage of thinking we're going to live forever. When we're older, we have the advantage of knowing we won't. And that was Catherine Hughes. And to me, that's one of the biggest gifts of aging is knowing that this is not forever, you know, and every time, and I try to remind myself multiple times a day that I don't know how long I have. I don't know how long the people that I'm here with have. I love these people. I love, you know, so much about this world. And to have that knowledge really in our bones that this is fleeting is such a gift to enable us to, for me at least, I come from that. It was like, how will I love today? What do I want to give? How, you know, what am I doing with this moment? Whereas when I was younger, it just seemed like there were just gobs of time and I wasted a lot of it. So I just wanted to bring us back to that quote that again is in JJ's beautiful book. And then one more thing before we say hi to Alan. I just want to check with JJ and Sue. Any last words before we close out?
Well, I was saying, I have a fellow at the very end of my book, Boney Tony, and his whole philosophy was, why do anything if you wait, the world comes to your door. And the final words for him, there's a story at the end, but it says, finally, the moral was, while you still have muscles on your bones or one strand of hair somewhere on your body and any ideas in your mind, go for it, whatever it is.
Oh, I love that one strand of hair on your head or anywhere. Oh, that's just perfect, JJ. Sue, how about you? Was there any last words?
I guess just as a counterpoint to what JJ said, and if you don't, then relax. That be too.
That was perfect. That was so perfect. I love that. And Alan, we're so glad you're here. You should be able to unmute. And
Yes.
talking about
Hi.
hi, talking about celebrating our lives and
Uh,
everything that we are and who we are. You've got some news.
well, before I say news, talking about aging and long life, friend of mine died earlier this year, and we're going to do a celebration with his ashes in a week. And so his sister sent me his remains, And one of the reasons I'm late coming on is because I had to sign for them, and they just arrived like a half hour ago. So if there's anything about reminding, about, dying and longevity, it just like occurred to me just now, happened to me. And also, I was at a Unity service in Marin on Sunday, and during the talk, somebody passed out, and paramedics had to come. So, my thing is, we never know. We have this moment, we may not have the next, and to enjoy it, and that's, and Sherry knows that I love to celebrate birthdays. That's my big thing, milestone ones. And she was at my 85 birthday. I think maybe Brenda, you might have been there too. I know you were invited. Maybe you were out of town, but this was a picture from that occasion. And all that's leading up to the news that Sherry asked me about. Out of that event, somebody in the movie industry said, "Your life is so exciting, it should be a documentary." And she introduced me to a documentarian, and we just finished filming it. The rough cut should be this Friday. It's and scheduled for PBS next year.
Oh,
Yay,
And it's called,
Ellen.
it's called The Jollytologist. And you could all see a preview, 4-minute preview, really short, at www.thejollyfilm.com. Thejollyfilm.com. Oh, look at all of that. I love that.
I know, Alan, we're so excited for you. It's so
Thank you for
wonderful.
allowing me to say this. And Sherry, I'm so behind your new book. I think it's so well needed, and um, I will help publicize it wherever I can.
Well, I'll be publicizing your amazing documentary too. So thank you, Alan. It's so good to see you. And wow, that was poignant what you shared about why you came in late too. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
for sharing
yeah.
that. I know I'm sorry we're a couple minutes over. I apologize, but it was so important that we had Alan here and wanted him to share this beautiful news. And so oh my goodness, what a beautiful hour this has been. Thank you so much, Sue and JJ and Books That Save Lives, Tatiana, Duncan, Brenda, and all of you who are here, who shared or just brought your energy. I love these hours with all of you and so grateful for everything that you've brought and everything we had to talk about, and especially grateful for the books behind these conversations. So thank you so much. And, feel free to reach out if you've got an idea for a panel that you want to hear or to do. And we'll hope to see you next time. Thank you all.
you.
Thank you, Sherry. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Age happily. Bye.
Bye.